Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news. And out of nowhere, Nintendo decided to drop another Nintendo Direct Mini, and this one was a pretty good one this time. They had a lot to announce that fans should be really excited about, but one surprising reveal was a couple of big AAA games coming to the Nintendo Switch. And more so, one of them even had ray tracing, which is kind of wild to think about. So we're going to go over all of that here in just a bit and how that's even possible, so don't go anywhere just yet. Also, we got another direct comparison for the Xbox Series X that shows a pretty insane upgrade in terms of graphics. It really is a night and day difference, so stick around for that as well. First though, let's go over some of the quick news, starting off with Wasteland 3. So yesterday we got to talk about some success for Battletoads, but today we get to talk about another game that launched into Xbox Game Pass during the month of August, and that is Wasteland 3. And just like Battletoads, Wasteland 3 has also reached 1 million players. Now this one was on more platforms, as it's available on the PlayStation 4 as well, but this is the second Xbox Game Studios game to reach 1 million players in a single month. That's both very impressive and deserving. It kind of goes back to what I was saying yesterday. This shows the success of Xbox Game Pass. These are games that could be considered a little more niche, especially Wasteland on consoles, but both of them reached 1 million players, and that shows interest and engagement from fans. This is exactly what Xbox wants to do with their first-party games. Not only does it give more exposure to these type of games, but as long as there's that consistent engagement from a month-to-month basis, that means users are more than likely to stay subscribed. I also want to say that Wasteland 3 is actually one of the best RPGs this year. It really deserves much more than just 1 million, but this is a studio that Xbox fans really need to pay attention to. I know a lot of fans are more focused on Bethesda right now because that's a big name, but inXile is very talented, and we do have confirmation that they're working on a new game right this moment. It's supposed to be a big AAA RPG this time too. Yeah, they might be making a bigger game next time, and that's very exciting. They're talented, and now with Microsoft's funding, I expect them to really surprise a lot of people with their next game. Either way, big congrats on the success for Wasteland 3. It really is well deserved, and if you like RPGs, you might want to check this one out. Now yesterday we also talked about CyberPunk 2077 getting delayed once again, which was definitely strange considering they did already say it's reached gold status. Typically that does mean that a game is ready to go, so the delay was very surprising to say the least. Again though, it's only a 21-day delay and is now planned for a December 10th release. However, why exactly is it being delayed? Well, from the sounds of it, it's because of the current generation consoles needs to be further optimized. The CD Projekt Red CEO says that CyberPunk runs well on next-generation platforms and PC, but they're still working on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 version. Yeah, it's not sounding too great for the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, especially those base consoles. I would not be surprised at all to hear there are some performance issues on these platforms. They're probably going to show their age here and very early on in the generation. Now, I believe the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro probably can handle CyberPunk a little better, but from the sounds of it, the base consoles are in an entirely different story. I mean, they're still trying to optimize this game, and it's going to be out in less than 2 months. That's not a lot of time to make any major changes. Now with that said, it's still at least releasing on the current generation consoles, so if you're not an early adopter for the Xbox Series or the PlayStation 5, you can still play it, but again, it's very possible it's going to have some performance issues based on what we're hearing right now. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it sounds like to me. That does bring up an entirely different topic though, of when should developers move on to next generation only games. I like the idea of supporting the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, but again, from the sounds of it, we're already seeing an issue here with CyberPunk. In other news, PlayStation dropped a lot of new information through their fiscal year report, and let's just say it was extremely impressive. Yeah, check this out. The PlayStation 4 is now the most profitable console of all time, and it's currently shipped 113.6 million units worldwide. Now, if that wasn't impressive enough, they also broke a new record for PlayStation Plus subscribers at 45.9 million subs. Yeah, the PlayStation 4 really has been a huge success this generation for Sony, and from the sounds of it, the PlayStation 5 is going to take that momentum right into next generation. They did reveal their current goals for the PlayStation 5, and they expect to sell another 100 million units for the PlayStation 5 lifetime. Now keep in mind that does not mean it will only sell 100 million, or that they believe that it will sell less than the PlayStation 4. That's just an early target, and they're going to want to lowball that number and try to break expectations if they surpass that number. You're not going to want to set expectations too high and not meet them. You need to make them reasonable and then try to surpass them. Now, they did also say that their first fiscal year target for the PlayStation 5 is to ship more than 7.6 million units, which is actually a bit lower than I expected. It is higher than the PlayStation 4 in the same time frame, as it sold 7 million, but from what they're saying, it sounds like they want to push out at least 7.6 million PlayStation 5 units by the end of March of 2021. We have been hearing reports all over the place on this topic, and some places were even saying we're going to see 10 million plus, but that doesn't appear to be the case. I'm just going to say this, it's probably going to be very hard to get a PlayStation 5 early in the generation. Let's talk about the Xbox Series X though, because one big topic over the last year has been about the power of the Xbox Series X. This is supposed to be the most powerful console on the market, and there for a while fans were really wanting to see more about this. However, don't tell us about how powerful it is, but rather show us. Well, last week we got to see how much Gears 5 has improved on the Xbox Series X, and this week we're getting to see yet another insane upgrade, but this time for Ark Survival Evolved. And once again, we are seeing a night and day difference compared to the original Xbox One game. I mean, if you look at these side-by-side comparisons, you can see a major upgrade in not only the detail and resolution, but you can also see a huge improvement with the lighting. Apparently, some things are even better than the PC version, such as extreme level streaming distance and extreme draw level of detail distance. So that's very impressive as well, and let me explain why I like these side-by-side comparisons of current generation games. That's because you can actually see a true comparison side by side and how graphics evolved. You can see exactly how much more powerful the Xbox Series X is compared to this current generation. I keep seeing online how some fans thinks it's not a major improvement, but when you see these comparisons, it's obviously very clear on how much more powerful next generation platforms are. Now, can you imagine when we start seeing games that were built from the ground up with the Xbox Series X in mind? Yeah, Hellblade is going to be insane. I mean, these are just games with Series X enhancements, and that's crazy all on its own. With that said, I would like to see a comparison of the Xbox One X version as well, but nonetheless, this should make people who are looking forward to next generation platforms very happy. Now onto the Nintendo news, because out of nowhere, Nintendo dropped another Nintendo Direct Mini. And I know Nintendo has been kind of hit or miss this year with those smaller directs, but this time there's a lot to look forward to. They announced several games such as Tropico, a new farming simulator by the name of Story of Seasons, some apocalyptic game surviving the aftermath, and a few other surprises like that. There were several bigger games here as well though, and actually a few are available on the Switch as we speak. Yeah, they shadow dropped No More Heroes 1 and 2, which are $20 a piece. They also did say the third installment will be available in 2021. Then there was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, which has a demo available today. And something we are seeing is that Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is that it's being treated as a true Zelda experience. It actually looks really good, both in terms of its story and its gameplay. If you're not sold on it yet though, you can check out the demo, which should be available on the Nintendo eShop. They also revealed some more gameplay of Ubisoft's upcoming game that looks a lot like Zelda Breath of the Wild, Immortals Fenyx Rising. Now I have to say, from what they showed today, it looked pretty good. This is something that I've always really appreciated about Nintendo. When they show trailers at their Nintendo Directs, they show actual gameplay. I can't say other publishers are always good about that, but Nintendo seems to know this is what gamers want, and I think Fenyx Rising looks more impressive than I've seen anywhere else. We also finally got some more information on Bravely Default 2, and this one's kind of been up in the air for a while. They did release a demo earlier this year, but since then, it just kind of vanished with the release window for 2020. Well, it did get pushed back and will now be available on February 26th of 2021. I have to say though, I'm glad it got pushed back because there are so many games coming out in the next couple months. So I'll have plenty to play, but if you are disappointed in this delay, just keep in mind that it should help for a better overall final product. Here was the surprising news though, and this one kind of caught me off guard. They revealed 2 big AAA games for the Nintendo Switch that are graphically demanding. Hitman 3 will be coming soon, and Control is available now. But there is a catch. So when they first showed Hitman 3, I was like, surely this game is going to have a huge visual downgrade. But from what they were showing, that wasn't the case at all, and I was kind of confused. Well, that's because these are being streamed through the cloud. Yes, this is the cloud edition for both games, so it will require fast internet. In fact, you have to download a separate launcher where you test each game to see if your internet is capable of running them before you can actually buy them. I like that though because it's a good way of making sure fans get what they pay for. They don't want a situation where customers buy these games and then they get upset because they can't run the game. This does ensure that's not a problem, but this is interesting. This might be a good way for Nintendo Switch to get some of these bigger games on their platform if everything runs smoothly. I mean, technically, the Nintendo Switch is the first console to have ray tracing, even if it's being streamed. That's wild to think about. They did say Control will run at 30 frames per second with ray tracing, or 60 frames with ray tracing off. But again, this is a good way to maybe get some of these games on the Switch. There's always that concern that the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 might negatively affect the Switch because of the huge power gap. But if this turns out to be successful, you could end up seeing a lot more developers do this in the future. And before I go, I do want to give my experience on game streaming. From my experience, you're going to want to have a 5G router. For me, xCloud runs near flawless with a 5G router, so just keep that in mind if you do want to try out Control or Hitman 3 on your Switch. You're probably going to want a 5G router, and that should help out a lot. Nonetheless, I will ask you, what do you think about cloud games coming to the Nintendo Switch? Do you like it or not? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.